Hello, my name is Stephen Burns. Thank you for joining my channel. And today I'm going to show you how to transform an abandoned, overgrown raised planting bed, one that's not producing any fruit, and how to revitalize it into the garden of your dreams. Now, before we talk more about how you can transform your garden and how to revitalize your raised beds, I need to show you the state that this raised bed was in before I started the project. It was pretty drastic. All right, you with me? Let's check it out. When I first saw these raised beds, I thought to myself, wow, this soil is so dead. Sure, it was overgrown with grass and weeds, but the soil was very dry, compacted, and there were no worms or bugs in sight. Soil that is alive is the foundation to a healthy, bountiful garden, and lifeless soil is often the undiagnosed problem that many gardeners struggle against. In this video, I will share with you my 6-step method for revitalizing soil that's low cost and easy to do. Okay, so here are the 6 steps that I use to completely revitalize these raised planting beds, and you can use the same. Now, throughout the video, I'll be explaining each of these steps in more detail, but the point I wanted to make here is that you can run each step concurrently with the others. So you should be watering throughout all these different steps, and you should be mixing the soil as best as possible, aerating the soil, adding organics, removing plastic. Do all of these at the same time, and you'll see much greater success. One other note I wanted to make is you should never use any fungicides, herbicides, or insecticides. If you're trying to grow healthy, organic, fresh food, these are the worst things that you could add to your soil, as they take decades to break down and they have severe health consequences when you ingest them. So please avoid all Roundup for weed control. If you have a garden or you're starting a garden, then I would highly recommend you follow sustainable practices. A biodynamic garden is a garden that restores, maintains, and enhances ecologic harmony. It is a sustainable agricultural practice that has been practiced for thousands of years. Crop rotation and using plants for nitrogen fixing, rather than chemicals, are great examples. Removing all metal and plastic from the soil is the first step towards having a bountiful, biodynamic garden that feeds you and your family. We often think of plastic waste as only being a problem for our landfills and for our oceans. But I pulled a full grocery bag full of plastic that weighs about 5 to 10 pounds out of this raised bed when I revitalized it. So when you're gardening, when you're tending to your property, always pull out plastic. Because as you know, plastic does not decompose, it just degrades. And the smaller the size of the plastic particle, the more likely it is to end up in your body. So, get rid of plastic. As caretakers of this planet, it is our responsibility to do what we can. Aerating the soil is the next step. Aeration is very important for a few reasons. Hard, compacted soil is very difficult for plants to explore via their root networks. And the larger the root network a plant has, the easier it is for it to find water and nutrients. Therefore, a well-aerated garden is more drought resistant in times of stress. We also know that plants and fungi share water and nutrients, and well-aerated soil makes it easy for plants to overlap their root networks and work together symbiotically. This will increase the growth of the plants and increase your produce yield. The general rule of thumb is a plant has roots as deep or as wide as it is tall. And if you dig a small hole for a plant, and around where you dug is highly compacted still, the plant will struggle tremendously and potentially fail in piercing that outer wall. This results in a plant with stunted growth and an overstressed system more susceptible to infection or rot. A well-aerated soil also makes it very easy to incorporate organics into the soil, providing the plants new sources of carbon of which they need to grow. Okay, now it is time to add our organics. And organic is anything that contains carbon. And this is pretty easy. You can use your food waste, eggshells, vegetables, fruits. You can take weeds from a de-weeding project that you've had. You can also pull from your compost pile. You can see here that this compost pile is so rich in nutrients and fiber and mulch. And you can take the leaves from your backyard and you can take all of these organics and mix it into your soil. So this right here, I'm showing how to incorporate the food waste into your soil. Basically, you want to dig a hole, dump in your food waste, add some browns on top. This is from the compost pile. And then you also want to take some of the soil and place it on top to assist you in chopping it up. And to chop it up, I just use my shovel. For this project, the pre-existing soil was highly clay-based, and without ample organic matter for the plants to pull from, their growth would have always been subpar. Most people in this situation turn to fertilizer or commercial compost derived from feedlot animals, but neither of these solutions are in your best interest. I recommend you keep a pile of loose soil that you can mix food waste and yard trimmings into, without the need for an elaborate composting setup. Composting is great too, but I found this works just as well. When performing direct burial, it's still important to follow the general principles of composting, which is you want an even ratio, 50-50, between greens and browns. Additionally, I would recommend limiting the amount of food scraps like meat that you put in there, animal products, as they can affect the ratio of chemicals in the soil. Once you've layered all your organics, your compost, your clippings, your food waste, your leaves, it's time to begin mixing it all into a homogeneous soil. And now comes the hard part, mixing the soil. Now, I chose to mix everything with a shovel, which is a bit more difficult, but really lets me see everything I'm breaking down. But you could choose to use a rototiller or something more powered if you wanted to. The big thing is you don't want there to be any gasoline drips or any contamination that happens during this process. I was able to mix half the soil on the first day, and I was pleased with how well it all mixed together. It's also important to water the soil down to help speed up the decomposition process. So whether the soil has been mixed or still has organics on top, make sure you water it down. There were a few tomatoes in the center of these raised beds before I started the project, so I decided to leave them in place and keep their root systems intact. I mixed one half of the soil on day 1, and on days 2 and 3, I mixed the other half of the soil. Then what I did is I incorporated this mixed and aerated soil near the root systems in order for them to see the benefit of the project. I wanted them to receive a fresh store of carbon. And remember to keep an eye out for any critters, because we want to preserve as much life as possible during this transformation process. Once the mixing and aeration was complete, I leveled the beds off to prepare them for the mycorrhizal inoculant, the seeds, and for the addition of topsoil. Step 5 is a special step because this is when we lay the foundations of new life. We've done everything we can to transform the soil, and now we need to trust all the hard work we've put in. To do this, we use a mycorrhizal inoculant, a fungal inoculant that fortifies the root structures of the seed mix that we'll be adding. The seed mix I used contained broccoli, radish, alfalfa, and red clover seeds. So we're going to take our broccoli and friends and our fungal inoculant, and the easiest way to spread this out here is probably just to mix them. So that's what I'm going to do in this container. I've put the mycorrhizal inoculant and seed mix that I use in the video description. And my goal is to share this information with as many people as possible, so please hit that like button. It helps the algorithm a lot. So we're now going to spread this out, and we're going to do it as evenly as possible. I can always come back and put out more, but I don't want to run out before it's too late. So keep that in mind. If I had a spreader, I would use that, but it's also pretty easy to just do it by hand. And you want good distribution. You want all the way up to the edges here. These are all going to be microgreens to start. But if you let them sit there long enough, they will become full-fledged broccoli, clover, alfalfa, radish plants, everything. So it really just depends on what stage you want to take this to. But to just get your garden started, just to get it started, this is a great way to do it. A bag of these microgreens is like 15 bucks. The seeds are super cheap and they just have tons of bioactivity to them. So they're really fantastic. And they fill in all the corners. I'm putting them right here next to these other plants. And it just helps to get the soil productive. It helps to get everything going. It's really one of the best things you can do for a beginner starting the garden. And this fungal inoculant is fantastic because it helps fortify the root structures. It symbiotically works with the roots of any plants. And it also helps to break down all the organic matter that you mixed into your dirt. So this dirt was pretty dry, pretty dead when we started, and now it is already much more alive. I've already seen it home to many more insects in the week-long process of mixing it and turning it. But it'll become even more alive with a rich diversity of flora and fauna very, very soon. All thanks to these healthy and happy symbiotic organisms. And that's it. We've spread out our seed and our inoculant, and now it's time to cover the rest of this with dirt and water and wait. Once the mycorrhizal inoculant and seeds were down, I placed this soil builder all across the top of the raised bed. Now, this is an organic soil builder that actually contains more mycorrhizal inoculant and other beneficial materials like earthworm casings and forest products. So it really provides a perfect substrate for new seeds and new sprouts to grow through. Step 6 is to water. But really, it's more a question of time. You need to give the soil time to develop, and all the seeds in the soil need time to germinate, sprout, and to grow. Now, I was really lucky that after I spread out these seeds, it rained for about 5 days continuously. So that really saturated the soil and made it the perfect environment for germination. Here you can see the tomato plants I was talking about, and they've already started to put out new growths, even just a day or two after I mixed the soil, so it's already working. You'll be surprised by how fast this all comes to life, especially with good water and sunshine. Because of the rainstorms in my area, there were mushrooms popping up everywhere, so I picked as many as I could and I incorporated them into the soil in order to improve the fungal diversity. I even found some reishi mushrooms, which are a type of medicinal mushroom, and I really hope that they colonize. You can just bury the mushrooms directly. It's pretty simple. Okay, the raised bed is finished. So let's do a recap of what we've done, and then I'm going to show you everything about the final product. So first, we took out all the siding and removed all the plastic from the soil. And we also pulled all the weeds, so all the old grass, there's some overgrown weeds I don't know the names of, but we pulled them all out, put them in a pile, and our goal is to always rework any productivity back into the soil. So while you can't eat grass, it is green, it does have nutrients, you want to work that back into the soil. Then I also took a whole bunch of organics, a whole bunch of leaves from the tree that's nearby, and I also made a layer of that over the soil. I also took some compost that we had along with some food scraps, and I put that into the soil. The next step of revitalizing this whole raised bed was to churn the soil up, break up those organics, really mix them into the soil, and start the process of decomposition and composting natively within the soil. Now, The way you do that safely is you want to utilize the power of the mushroom, the fungus. Add mushrooms and fungal inoculants. I added a lot of mushrooms to the soil. You want to add a wide variety of plants so the roots can start breaking everything down, and then you sit back, give it good sunshine, and you water. Let's see the final result. Here you can see how the tomato plants have already doubled in size. This gardening project was so much fun. It's so awesome taking a piece of land and completely transforming it, improving the environment for all the plants and the animals that live there. In the process of conditioning the soil and improving the diversity of flora and fauna, we've also benefited ourselves because we'll be able to pull out way more produce from this garden next year compared to last. Here are the before and after photos. What an absolutely incredible transformation this depicts. And it only took about 2 weeks' time. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it tremendously useful for your own gardening projects. And please let me know how your raised bed transformation goes in the comments below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share, comment, and subscribe. And again, thank you for watching. Namaste.